Welcome to the Local Marketing Source Weekly Update, brought to you by localmarketingsource.com.
This week's Local Marketing Update is brought to you by Scott Gallagher. Scott is the co-founder of Local Marketing Source and has become the recognized expert in providing online marketing services to local businesses. Follow Scott on Twitter @ScottGallagher5 and on Facebook.com/ScottPGallagher.
Hey, well, good afternoon, everyone. Scott Gallagher here with Local Marketing Source, bringing you our weekly local marketing industry update. Now, next week's LS member call is going to be Wednesday, December 14th at 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern. Now, this week, we've got a couple of different things to get into, and here we are in our first completed week of December. Well, you know what that means, and that means getting ready for 2017. Wow, I almost stumbled saying 2017. It's, this decade just feels like it just started, and here we are 7 years into this decade, and before you know it, we're going to be saying 2020. Wow. We're no longer at the beginning of this millennium either. Incredible. Well, so what that means is getting ready for 2017 is looking at some of the SEO trends and what to prepare for in terms of SEO for 2017. But Google also made some recent changes to organic site links, and that caused some major drops in impressions in the Google Search Console. And finally, Google has begun rolling out some new desktop search user interface that we're going to have a little bit of a discussion with in regards to. Again, I'd like to welcome all the new LMS members that have come in recently. If this is your first call, what we do is we do a weekly update of the industry, get into some discussions. Sometimes we'll talk for 15 minutes, sometimes it's 45 minutes. Then we'll take a little break and come back and answer any questions that you might have in regards to, well, any questions you have. You can throw it out. I have an answer for every question you have. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the right answer, but I have an answer. So try me. So the recent changes to the organic site links caused major drops in impressions in the Google Search Console. Well, Google released site link updates that caused impression and an average position drop in the Search Console. This was recently reported by Search Engine Land. And Google had recently made some under-the-radar changes to site links in the organic search results. Well, what this is, when a search result comes up and you've got the blue text, that's the title of the page, you've got the green, which is a link, you've got some gray, 1 or 2 lines of gray text that is a description. Sometimes underneath that you'll have a variety of different site links, and this is where Google has made changes in the algorithm. So it made a change and adjusted the number of large site links being displayed for branded searches. It took away real estate, in other words, which takes away traffic. But for the most part, it doesn't appear that these changes have a real significant impact on traffic. They have caused dramatic fluctuations in impressions and average positions in the Google Search Console. So what does this mean, and what really happened? Well, Google made 2 changes that reduced the number of site links being shown on the SERPs. They started this gradually somewhere around the middle of October, and that's where we saw some major changes. And Google has also made and removed small site links from search listings. So small site links that often showed up for high search volume queries like branded and non-branded. But you may have noticed, and it is suggested by the researchers, that these site links are not coming up for small sites. And we've always talked about how content is relevant, content is king, and even right from day one, site links were influenced by the size of a site and the internal dynamic linking of that site. The next big change that I just wanted to point out in regards to this was that larger sites were getting more site link and small link exposure within their SERPs. So it really doesn't change anything for us. It doesn't put us in any other position, but it just tends to confirm and solidify the fact that content is relevant, and every small business could create content on a regular basis through a blog, and that's content that's ultimately going to show up. We're probably going to see some of these changes in the local results as well. That tends to be the trend. So we're going to keep an eye out for that moving forward. Well, Google begins rolling out a new desktop search interface now. And this is confirmed. It's not that much of a different change. But the new look has a little bit more of a boxy look, resembling more of a mobile user interface. So it's believed that the rollout that began yesterday is to make desktop pages look more like what we see on mobile. So on that note, I think it's appropriate to move and have a discussion of some SEO trends that we're likely going to see in 2017 and what to look out for. Just on the discussion of mobile, mobile is an absolute factor in that, and page loading speed for wireless devices and whatnot. But there's been numerous developments and changes in SEO over the last 10 years and even in the last 10 months. A lot of the prominent trends that we were talking about this time last year are going to continue and grow in 2017. My expression, it's just marketing. And what we're trying to do is get a better understanding of consumers. So as Google's algorithm updates consistently, it keeps a lot of people on their toes. And we want to alleviate ourselves of these stresses to ensure that we're on a good path. So really the discussion is centered around optimization for user intent as opposed to optimization for search engines. And although items like keywords are still important, but we've got to get an understanding of the business that we're working with and get an understanding of the buyer buying behavior. So I had a discussion yesterday on how car dealerships are a tough business to SEO because buyers typically already know the choices of vehicles that they want to go and see. And therefore, they will do a product search to find the local businesses that have particular products, as opposed to finding local businesses that may help them find the products that they want to purchase. Consumers today know exactly what they're looking for. And search engines are getting much better at identifying the user intent. Therefore, we're entering in full queries and phrases into search engines now more than ever. And that gathers data at a quicker rate and provides the opportunity to give more effective and realistic and accurate results. So in 2017, businesses need to place value on optimizing their content based on intent rather than specific keywords. Think about that for a moment. We want to understand our buyers' behaviors and really what our buyers are looking for and provide it to them on our sites and throughout the internet. Well, geez, that's what marketing ultimately is. And so when somebody comes to a website, a prospective buyer comes to a website, you want to take them on a journey of the buying process. And every business is going to have different audience segments. Understanding those audience segments by maybe income levels of the buyers, the age, sex, demographics, education. There's hundreds of ways that we can segment an audience based off a variety of different psychographics and demographics. But identify and define 2, 3, 4, 5 different target audience groups that a business is going to go after. And then create content to help those buyers go on a journey, a buying journey through your site. You're going to generate keywords that are relevant. You're going to generate content that's relevant, content that's shared and liked. So, you see, people are turning to search engines more and more to find answers, whether it be on their mobile device or their desktop, and the way that they're asking questions. And ultimately, the buying process, the sale process, when a buyer has an objection, a salesperson will overcome that objection because they've encountered that objection in the past. Well, objections are questions, and objection rebuttals are answers to that. And so every business, if you're a dentist and you want to focus on growing teeth whitening to bring people in, or sedation, that's a better example. There's a lot of questions about sedation. What about this? What about that? We used to answer those in frequently asked questions, which can still work. But people are scared of sedation for different reasons, and address each of those reasons that they are fearful of that. That's valuable content to users. You're answering their objections even before they ask them. Search engines are going to like that. You're going to get good content that's in there. You're going to talk about cosmetic and dentistry and sedation and get ranked for those keywords. Now, Google is also answering the questions more on their SERPs. Think about certain questions you've asked. I ask questions about Photoshop, Final Cut Pro, cooking. And each of those 3 examples, the answers come right up on the front page, and then there's a link to another page. Well, how do they get those there? And that content has been deemed the most authoritative for looking for a recipe for a meatloaf. And that's done through markup schema, marking the language up internally, offering much more relevant and usable content for users. It makes sense, doesn't it? We're going to see further increased growth in 2017. Mobile accessibility has really reshaped SEO over the last few years. Traffic distributions are shifting away from desktop and moving towards mobile devices. We have crossed that threshold about a year ago in terms of mobile searches surpassing desktop searches. That happened in 2015. And since then, Google and other search engines have taken steps that these signals are changing the user interface. Voice search is a component of mobile searches that's a big thing. And it's still in a process of working out a lot of its kinks. But the difference between voice and typing that we're foreseeing in SEO is that we are becoming and getting closer and closer to natural search, where we don't have to take a question and pull out the keywords and just put the keywords into a Google search bar and try to get the answer. We can ask straight up questions as if we are in communication as human beings, the way that we more naturally and organically operate and think. And with the growth of voice search, We're going to see that. And in other words, conversationalism, having a conversation while taking a buyer through that journey, is going to be content that's going to resonate well with the search engines. Voice understanding is the next step beyond voice recognition. Trying to understand what people are trying to ask. And therefore, there's some further confirmation that content is relevant on a site to be able to provide and answer all the objections that buyers have. You see how understanding your audience can answer so many of these SEO questions? So 2017 is going to be a big year. Users are still continually going to be connected and engaged with the content that they consume. That content is going to become more and more relevant, and marketers aren't going to have to find new ways, but find unique ways to communicate and resonate with this audience. Now, in terms of your agency growth and acquiring new clients, just like accomplishing SEO goals, growing your business is also moving back towards real relationships, more belly to belly. So on that note, I'm going to take 30 seconds and come back and answer any questions that we might have. I don't see any questions yet, but I'll give you guys some time to type them in or raise your hand, and we'll go from there. Well, thanks for watching the Local Marketing Industry Update. We've got these things coming out every single week, so if you liked with what you heard, just click the button right above me right here to subscribe to our channel. If you'd like to get a little bit more, right over here, go check out localmarketingsource.com. We've got free reports that you can grab. You can even register for a free marketing course to get in and see the portal. Or just go ahead and follow us on some of the social channels. We'll be around. Until next time.